We had an example at the last meeting of I didn't get the pause clicked and we had the double audio happen. Okay, now I got the pause. Okay, Joaquin, it's all yours. And if you need any assistance with someone in the room to help, just holler.
Thank you, Gretchen. And I often need assistance even if I'm there, so I appreciate the offer. But let's see how far we can get. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Community Engagement Task Force meeting of January 24th, 7:03 in the evening. Let's go ahead and do some introductions. I'll start and then we'll go around the room if that works all the same. My name is Joaquin. I am a member of the Human Rights Commission. I chair this task force and I represent or live in, or however you want to phrase it, Ward 8. So let's jump in there and go around the table, and I'll leave that to everyone's discretion there.
I'll go next. I'm Kathy Ostrand-Ponchant. I live in South Salem. I'm a member of the Human Rights Commission as well as this task force. David?
Hi, my name is David Reinhold. I'm a member of the commission and on this task force, and I'm a resident of Polk County.
My name is Robert Marshall. I am a resident of Ward 2. I am a member of the Human Rights Commission, a member of this task force, and a member of the LGBTQIA Intersectional Rights Task Force.
Thank you. My name is Gretchen, she, her pronouns, and staff to the commission.
My name is Kate Strathby. Sorry, I'm like choking. These intros, Gretchen. Okay. And I'm a new member of the Human Rights Commission, and then I have just joined through Joaquin's persuasion of this community engagement task force. So, and unceremoniously joined the LGBTQ meeting early today. So yes.
And Joaquin, if you wouldn't mind a quick hospitality pause. I didn't get a chance to offer anybody water. And does anyone need anything to drink? I'm okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Joaquin, take it away.
Thank you, Gretchen. And Kate, we are glad to have you. So I'm glad you're here, and thank you for your attendance and your engagement tonight. Forgive me. Gretchen, do we have any public comment? Which is rhetorical, because I know we do.
Gosh.
We have Marley Baker's comment, is that right?
Oh, thank you. My brain didn't categorize that in the public comment category, so I was about to tell you we have no public comment, but we do have a request from Marley Baker from the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. And so absolutely, we could absolutely take that right here, Joaquin. That makes a lot of sense.
And let's do that. And if it ends up being something we'd like the whole commission to discuss, that's fine too. But go ahead, Gretchen. Would you remind us, please, of what that entailed?
Thank you. I did a terrible job of bringing that into the room. Did anybody happen to print that out?
I don't think I did. I know I read it.
Yeah. From memory.
Would
Marley,
you like me to read it to you?
If you've got it handy, you are awesome. Thank you.
This is the benefit of being on my phone, I suppose. So Marley Baker, for those who may or may not remember, and for those that are new to these conversations, represents in some capacity, I know she works for them, but I don't remember exactly what her role is, the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. And she's come both to the task force and to the General Commission at least twice in my time to talk about these sorts of issues. And she was particularly in the early days of those conversations interested in our work as it pertained to Chapter 97 changes, which I think I made reference to the last meeting, namely around housing status as a protected class in the city. And she periodically reaches out, including this time around, where she said the following, and this I'm quoting a message from her now. It reads as follows. I'm reaching out to inquire if the Salem Human Rights Commission has the capacity to partner with FHCO, which is Fair Housing Council of Oregon, in promoting Fair Housing Month this upcoming April. So a few months off. I have a few ideas forgive my parentheticals here, but I have a few ideas, such as issuing a proclamatory statement, setting up some sort of fair housing informational station at City Hall, or even, she says, co-hosting a community forum similar to the Human Rights Day, Salem Speaks Up, name your favorite event, where folks can share their experiences with housing discrimination in Salem. End of message. So that was her outreach, and my inclination is, well, I'll stop there. What are folks' reactions to that?
I'm nodding. I don't know what the capacity is, but I think that there's certainly something we could do. It would be valuable, I think, to have Marley and have them explain more about what their thoughts are. I wish I had printed it.
I remember the concepts again were like an information station at
Mhm.
City Hall, a town hall gathering. And she mentioned Salem Speaks Up as an example, or sort of a statement or
Yeah.
proclamation, kind of continuum of ideas.
And that might be where we could maybe help set expectations or ideas too. What thinking about our capacity in terms of what event we'd like to be able to host or co-host, if such interest exists.
I just wonder if City Hall is the best place for it. I don't know. Is it City Hall?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's okay to ask.
So I think downstairs where people pay their bills, that would be a good space because a lot of people go in there. Like, I mean, I was in there just to get a parking permit for my district and it's busy, right? Like, so that would be a good location because a lot of people come in to pay their bills and so they might see it. So just by walking in. And then the library, a lot of people use the computers there. A lot of people go in there just to like use the resources because it's free and convenient. So I think that could also be a good location. Sorry,
No, I'm glad you and clarified.
when we're in.
No, it's not,
But-
but the whole building in City Hall, so
Okay.
we consider the first
Perfect.
floor, including the customer service center that you visited,
Yeah.
is part of City Hall. The second floor is, third floor is, so and
Okay.
it's a very good and fair question.
Okay.
So that's nothing you should have had to automatically know.
Okay,
Yeah, and then the library, of course, being right here, and both of those being city facilities.
yeah.
So we could be certainly asking about that.
I think another question that it immediately leaps to mind is who is the intended audience and what is the purpose of these events? I think there's a world in which we're trying to get out information about housing to folks who wouldn't otherwise know about it,
Mhm.
which to me is a whole kind of event that I may or may not be interested in. For a variety of reasons. This could be, a resource sharing event for folks who we would like the resources to benefit, which is a whole different other kind of event. So I would be interested to know Marley's insights. And Robert, I wonder what your instincts are here in terms of where and how and for whom.
Yeah, Joaquin, I think I agree with you a lot too in kind of identifying what Marley's, kind of overall, intentions. Is it, primarily wanting to, gather information about, violations of fair housing or discrimination in housing or anything that's occurring within the city of Salem? Because if that's, the intention, then, then a listening session makes sense. If it's more so, trying to provide information and on what fair housing, like what the Fair Housing Council is and, ways that people can, receive resources, then I think, having, information tables set up at, City Hall and the library make more sense. And so I think it kind of, really just boils down to what is it they're trying to accomplish? I do see that, this being, fair housing aligned. It's definitely something I can also take back to, there's something I can definitely take back to Arches and the people I work with there. we could find out kind of what the angle is there, and what we're trying to accomplish. We could essentially bring in, I can, work with the Community Action Agency and Arches and potentially bring them in as a third entity as well. But
Yeah, thank
you know-
thank you for that, Robert. And I wonder too, to what extent this really weaves in with what you've been working on.
I'm sorry, I
formulating.
didn't quite catch that.
Oh, someone's talking to me about something. Forgive me. What was I saying? Oh, whether that, to what extent this kind of ties into what you've been thinking about already, Robert, about this town hall.
And that's kind of what I was thinking too, is, how,
I
if
can't
it's.
get the answer to that on iPhone.
Oh, for Lord. Good Lord. How do we do that differently? Just turn it off, I guess. Okay. Go ahead, Robert. I apologize.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is some correlation or thing to it, as well, and everything with the, kind of the fair housing and, this kind of homelessness town hall and everything that, the Human Rights Commission and everything is, putting together. But I think in a way and everything, it should, kind of be kept separate in a way and everything, because I also know that it's not just homeless people and everything that, find themselves and everything being discriminated and, like housing, situations and everything, the Latinx populations, the LGBTQIA, plus community and everything. And I would hate to kind of tie it into, just one of those specific populations, because I would think that kind of the goal of this is to kind of keep it broad in terms of, with the Fair Housing Council, what I know of the Fair Housing Council and everything is, keeping it broad and everything of all these subpopulations that experience discrimination in, the housing setting. And so I wouldn't necessarily want to tie it in directly to, houselessness aspect, because then I think we lose everybody else.
That's a good point.
I think that instinct is a strong one. Go ahead.
I think there is, I think a lot of people do want to be heard on the topic of the need for low-income housing or fair and equitable housing. And so maybe a listening session would be nice, just so that people could feel heard and invite community partners. So like, there are so many people or so many organizations doing that work, and to invite them to join so they can share information, whether it's government organizations or some of the nonprofits in the region. But sometimes it's just nice to allow people to kind of vent their frustration with the system or the process too, because like I know some people are on lists to get housing, and they might not be homeless, they might have a place to live, but they've been on a list for years, and then like they get kicked off it for some reason because their PO box changed or something, and it's so frustrating for them. So just allowing people to have that space to talk about it. And we might have some insights from that we don't know yet, that I think could be valuable, but we don't know what we don't know. So I'm not sure what would come from that, right? There might be groups that that are underserved that we don't know about yet within this group, but you're right. I don't think it's necessarily houselessness, that's not the focus. It's just like exactly what she said, fair housing, so. Or they said, sorry.
I think a good next step would be to invite Marley to the next task force meeting, to get kind of a better idea of what it is that their organization is wanting to accomplish with that. And I think that's going to give us a good kind of understanding of kind of where to go next, because then we can gauge what is it, specifically they're looking for, what do they want to accomplish, and what is their bandwidth for, certain projects.
Yep.
And then we can kind of hash off from there, because I think a lot of these are, doable. I think a community presentation thing on open forum for people to talk, and we're also having, people from various different organizations that work in housing, for various populations would be great. We could hear about what they're offering, but also voice community concerns. Whereas, informational tables and everything is just a good way, I think, to push information out to people. And so we just kind of need to understand where they want to go with this, and how does that align with our thoughts and relate to 2 cents.
I think I agree with that. I think Molly should, of course, come and talk to us about it. I think two reactions, and I'm sorry, who was the one who was just talking before Robert? I'm sorry. I can't quite see everybody.
Me, Kate.
Oh, okay, thank you, Kate. I think to Kate's distinction around, having the event be one where folks in the community speak out and city leaders or whomever listen, I think is potentially a very fruitful one. I think the way we'd approach it would have to be in conversation with how we're approaching Robert's town hall idea too, and what I guess there's no real reason why we couldn't have two similar events, but maybe having the different might be something worth thinking about and considering. I also going a couple points back now to Robert's thing. Obviously this is a larger demographic than just our unsheltered, unhoused neighbors, and there's not a relationship. I mean, one of the leading contributing factors to homelessness is our housing policy and the way that it's discriminatory and can be predatory, and especially in Oregon that's true. And so and I'm all for having them be different, and I think there's space to have some cross-pollination there, at least in the sorts of topics that are discussed at the events. I'm getting ahead of myself now saying there is an event at all, but you see what I'm trying to say here. In terms of capacity, I wonder what folks' reactions are to that. I mean, obviously anyone who is interested and capable should and can come and volunteer, but I wonder among folks that are present today, I mean, I know April is sometime away, but would folks be interested in tabling or helping facilitate that event? Should it happen? Also, I'm arriving at City Hall, so give me 3 minutes and mull that over amongst yourselves, and I'll be there momentarily.
Gretchen,
Yes.
you're the homelessness lead for the city, right?
Liaison.
Liaison.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on finding us? Are you?
No, I am. Yeah.
Like how formal this is.
Oh, thank you.
So bad.
No, you're doing
The
terrific.
formality.
Thank you. Different commissions have been different with their formality and their approaches and the chair's pieces. And I'm gonna move over here to the Joaquin seat. And I'm kind of in the space of seeing these as two separate things, to the points that Robert made earlier. I think there's a lot we can do in the affordable housing conversation, fair housing conversation, and then there's the homelessness summit as conceptualized by Robert, which had some different objectives. And although there's some interconnectedness, I would kind of see two separate strategies.
Yeah.
Partly to help people who are not unsheltered be comfortable accessing the Fair Housing Council. I wouldn't want any stigma there.
Yeah.
Welcome in, Joaquin.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, he'll need the chair.
Very gracefully. Oh, yeah, I left my wheelchair. Wherever I live.
You're welcome.
We have an air tag on it, so you can find it.
Oh, it is fancy, but not that. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Forgive my tardiness.
We had a kind of a side conversation about continuing the intersectionality of the homelessness summit and this concept. I don't think we yet got to your question about who here might be interested in engaging, is where I think we are.
Oh, Linnell, I apologize. I didn't realize that you were online. I didn't see you. Welcome. That's okay.
Thank you, sorry. I joined a little late. I was running behind, but I'm listening in and thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. We're talking about somebody who works for the Fair Housing Council of Oregon, excuse me, approaching us about a potential event in April.
Yeah,
About for housing policy, so thank you.
Thank you.
Connections, you were saying?
Yeah, so anyone interested?
I would help. Yeah. Depending on my availability, like, I mean,
Yeah, of
Rule it
course,
out.
yeah. We don't know when it's gonna be or what it's going to be, so.
Plenty of lead time between now and then, so,
it will go by fast, so.
yeah,
That's basically February, March. Maybe April
yeah.
of this task force, which is not that many meetings. If you sprinkle in the general meetings, then there's a few more, but.
Yeah.
Let's invite Marley. For next one, or maybe the general meeting or whatever. Whatever would be easiest.
Yeah,
For her.
thanks. Okay, great.
I think she could probably attend the general Human Rights Commission meeting and pitch it there, then it gets her bit, it gets us an opportunity to kind of absorb what it is that she wants to do. Because
Yeah.
this task force will happen after that meeting.
Mhm.
It gives us a larger window she can present at the regular commission meeting.
Agreed.
And plus, if they say yes, or I guess if we say yes. In the larger general commission, that we can work out the details in our capacity as a task force.
I think the full commission is 3 weeks. Is meeting 3 weeks before we're gonna meet
Yeah.
again, so that would be good
That's
to come.
Yeah.
To the general meeting, I think, gives more time.
Yeah, I think that's the start of February and March. Work details.
Copy.
We gotta figure out when we're on the carpet.
I know.
You're really close, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's not that touch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're gonna
So I'm there for my runway work.
Put a lapel mic on you.
But actually, for the town hall that
Yes.
you were devising, do you have a sense of when that might be?
I don't. So I had a couple of kind of personal things that kind of came up, and so I haven't had much time to focus on that. And I also wanted to kind of wait until the start of the new year. And then the winter storm happened. I knew that everybody would want to reach out to and invite, was working 48-hour days.
Yeah.
So while I'm getting that email sent out and everything, and working kind of gauge that interest, I assume there's going to be high interest, and then send out kind of a doodle poll to kind of figure out when we could do it. So that is my plan for the rest of this week and next week, is to kind of nail that down. But
What is the topic?
so we are going to reach out to a handful of homeless service providers in Salem to kind of do a kind of an informational town hall on what is being done to address homelessness in the Salem area. And so the organizations and everything we're primarily looking at to kind of present everything for this first one would be the Arches Project, the UGM, the Salem Police Department, and with their new kind of homeless outreach team, kind of talk about the work that they're doing, and then Church of the Park. And then kind of the idea behind it would be to provide kind of 5 to 10 minutes and everything for them to kind of talk about their organizations and everything, what their organizations are doing, kind of what investments are being made into addressing homelessness in Salem, but then opening it up and everything for community members to ask questions of the specific leaders from those organizations.
Okay. Yeah, I do think these are slightly different, because like I think of like there's homelessness, and then there's more like transitional and long-term housing too for people who aren't quite there yet, right? So I know like CHS is building like transitional and long-term housing. Well, not long-term, but they're building that new building, which will be like transitional housing. And it's not just for women, it's for I think it's broader than that. And then there's other organizations that do that too. So I think it is a little bit broader in scope for their topic, but I don't want to do two things that are exactly the same, but I think it's more like, I do think it's different if other people agree.
I don't think we're running that risk of it being too overlapping.
Yeah.
I have a quick thought, if you don't mind. I know we've got the other topics to get to, but as I hear how you're describing that, and as I think about something else that's emerging, there is some similarity with a work session that's now planned with February with City Council. city council asked for a work session, which is sort of a chance for them to not have their typical agenda, but instead to sort of roll up their sleeves and talk through a specific topic. And part of it is, what are we doing right now in Salem around homelessness? And we have invitations extended to several organizations
Okay.
and there's overlap with your list. So maybe Robert, you and I can
Yeah.
connect offline and just, what it is a chance for the mayor and city council to ask questions. It is open to the public, but it's not a place where the public could ask questions.
Yeah.
So in some ways, there's two different objectives, but there will be some similarity in the content, I think. But we can talk more about that. And all of you might be interested as well.
Yeah, you know, and I think, you know, sooner than it might be interesting to kind of, you know, see what comes of that work session and then
Yeah.
next time, I know the Salem Reporter and everything, have one scheduled and then during the ice storm and then to kind of talk about the results of the last city council work session and then in terms of gun violence and kind of, you know, like after publishing kind of like that data and the topics that were brought up. And I think that this might be, you know, given that work session, I think, you know, taking the results of that work session of the information that's brought up and then kind of switching gears, you know, we kind of synopsis of what was discussed, we can publish that ahead of time to the community and then really allow more time for kind of question asking of these leaders, and then it provides that opportunity for the community to hear, you know, what were city council's concerns, and I think what questions the city council asked, what information was provided to them, but then allow the general public their chance to kind of also put all those leaders.
What to do that work session?
It's the 3rd of February. We still have the old great
Yeah.
calendar up here. It's the 3rd Tuesday in February. It's the day after the President's Day, 20th, February 20th.
What time?
6 p.m. And we always do our work sessions at the Anderson Rooms in the public library, so that's the location. But there'll also be a option to watch on YouTube.
Thoughts, Robert, on potentially following the lead of the gun violence city conversation and having a Salem Reporter Human Rights Commission joint town hall about homelessness. 'Cause that was quite the
That'd be
thing.
good. Yeah,
That was quite the, it didn't happen, I know it got postponed, right? You sent some kind of link or some
yeah,
thing to us.
Whether.
yeah, I got postponed or they do the last.
No, so the last
Because, yeah, because they had done, yeah, and because I know they initially did, you know, town hall and thing, you know, talking about, you know, the ballot measure, and then they did this one, I think, about the gun violence, and I agree with you, I think there's kind of like that unique partnership and thing to work with, you know, the Salem Reporter, on that as well, because then we could work with them on publishing that information ahead of time, get it out to the viewers. And then coming in at town hall for, you know, questions, and I like the idea.
Is that the court? Is that allowed?
One clarification I would like to offer is just how important it would be for the city and its boards and commissions to reach to all of the media outlets.
Yeah,
Of course, they'd be welcome to participate, but so would, you know, all of the other people who produce media in the area. So I don't think we would do just a singular partnership.
yeah,
So that's important
Okay,
to clarify.
so I guess no, it's the answer. It wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, to me, no.
Okay.
I would go back and connect with our communications folks. We have a new communications person starting the first week in February, and so we'll be excited to get to know her and her counsel and guidance on that, but no, like my understanding of the Salem Reporters, they led that, they
Yeah,
initiated
yeah.
that. We can certainly come and participate, but that's their event that they hosted, and you know, I think about all the other media outlets that would, you know.
yeah,
Like, so I feel it would be important for us, either we host and they're invited, or they host and we're invited, but a thing could be confusing. I think it could blur the relationships with other providers of media information.
I think doing it, us hosting and then just inviting, I still think kind of the commission kind of being the host of it, because it kind of ties into, you know, what our overall objective was, for this, right? And it was the, you know, for the commission to address, homelessness and everything, but then also, speak to the investments that, the city is being made. And so I think by keeping it the commission, I think, which is a branch of, the city and everything, still kind of gives that, like, hey, like, this is what, we're doing this because we want to showcase the investments that are being made. And then it also, it keeps our name on the headlines, and then we can certainly, when they do their next town hall and everything, do some intel gathering for how they run their town.
Yeah.
And
Well, also, I mean, our real purpose, I think, is to showcase the work that people are doing around town and to have them have the opportunity to communicate that
yeah,
and answer questions. So obviously, our role is, I guess, as a convener, but really what we're trying to foreground is the work that we're doing.
yeah,
And I think the Senate reporter would probably, having a media therapy is probably dilute that a little bit. It would be, the Senate reporters town hall as opposed to our town hall foregrounding people's. So it ends up working. In the end.
Yeah, you had other ones.
Oh, you put notes there. How helpful. Oh my gosh, approval of the minutes, which, is there a motion to approve, or what would it be? I guess last month's.
And January 3rd.
January 3rd.
Or yes, January 3rd. Minutes. Is there a motion?
I will move to approve the minutes. And you corrected that to mark that David was there.
I did.
You were there, I believe, on the 3rd.
Yeah.
Thank you for noting that. Yeah, they have been corrected.
And I'll second.
Second for David. Well, it passes.
I wasn't here.
Oh, I guess all in favor, oh, yeah. All right, two agenda items that build off of our conversation that we carried over to the general meeting, which is relating to the liaison program, which I think was a general conversation we had last time. Has everyone had the opportunity to look over the kind of the fielding questions and conversation topics that Gretchen provided in advance of this meeting? General reactions to those, I have a few, but let's go around the room. See if anything.
While folks are thinking about that, I can share that Hamadi reached out to me and said what he'd really prefer is just some talking points. So that'd be a type of material that he'd request.
I like the idea of going in pairs and doing the in-person conversations. I think that's what we talked about, versus like phone conversation. It feels more personal, and I feel like people are so used to telemarketers that they would instantly shut down. Whereas if you're in person, they'd be more open to having a conversation, or at least be open to hearing from us, and then they can absorb the information later. So just personally, like, I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be just on phone or in person, or how you saw that happening, but I feel like it's just a little bit more work.
I do have a question about the phone. Is city exempt from the no call list? Do not call list?
I don't know. You mean, could people block us?
No, in other words, do you have to scrub the names to make sure the person's on the do not call list for you to call them?
Oh. I don't know. Great question that we should check on. Yeah. I would assume that we're not exempt, but that's just an assumption. That's a good question to research. Okay.
Because that might limit the amount of people you can call also.
So I hope you understand that. I'm not sure of the following. There's a list of what?
The national do not call list, it would be on there, and if a telemarketer calls you and you're on that do not call list, then that's a fine to whoever called.
Oh, really?
It could be up to $10,000.
Wonderful.
But me being in insurance, being in sales, we have to scrub names all the time.
Interesting. Cool.
So usually the only one is not exempt from, I mean, actually, the only one that you can actually call is not, so businesses are not on the do not call list, but private people are on the do not call list. So if you're just calling a business, that'd be fine, but if you're calling a private person, then that would be a problem.
Well, I think for the sake of this exercise and effort, we'll be going in person first, and then, you know, maybe a phone relationship could be established, but I see it primarily being, or at least initially being a face-to-face
I think-
conversation.
If I remember correctly, the phone, we started talking about the liaison program first, and that's, I think, where the phone and the email came in, is if we're connecting with a specific organization or group, and we want to make that, establish that relationship. Whereas, as opposed to the going around in pairs and, you know, I think it was two different concepts that were kind of blended together.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I agree, I mean, I wouldn't want to just randomly call people, yeah.
They're gonna,
Yeah.
no, I'm at work. I prefer something.
Um, I don't know, I kind of. I'm not sure exactly what Hamadi was thinking, but I think having a kind of, you know, just short and sweet and easy for it to reference final product would be good. But I think there's a lot of, you know, a lot of information here that would be good to put in that, if that makes any sense. Because it's like, you know, which, I don't know what different purposes are, and then which one am I gonna pull out to look at? But I think that was kind of our purpose of looking at it, wasn't it, was to decide, make those decisions, yeah. I meant to go and look at the QR card, just remind myself what that looked like. That's very simple, isn't it?
It is.
Is it just Salem Human Rights Commission with
Yes,
the contact information?
if you like, I can see if I can find it and pull it up too, if that would help you.
And it's in Spanish.
Yeah, thank you.
While you're doing that, one thing I noticed, Gretchen, and I don't have it in front of me, but I can see Kathy, but
Which one would you?
this arc looking thing is a little dated, is it not?
Mhm.
Oh, it is, David.
Relation and
So we'd
advisory
at least have to
commission.
update it, yeah.
And so I'm just flagging that not to say anything other than making sure the numbers and I'm sure the website and everything is current, but you know.
Yeah, we haven't handed this out in a long time. I was just trying to gather things that might
Yeah,
be things that would be
Sure.
interesting for you all to look at as examples. Yeah, yeah.
and then similarly, like housing status being one of those categories now.
Yeah.
throughout. There was one where, thank you, Kathy, there was one where it was like one of those classic like no, yes, and then you kind of walk,
Oh, yeah,
which I really liked that. I wonder if there was a way to make it more
That one?
for you. It's got it all. I mean, it made sense to me, but I wonder if, you know, it wasn't as explicitly yes, no kind of path walkway.
Oh, sure.
So,
Yeah.
and if I get confused, then, well, probably everyone else is fine, but, you know, just.
Great point, though. If you find something like that useful with some edits, we
Yeah.
can make some improvements and updates to it.
I think having something like that we could leave with people would be helpful. And then also having talking points
Right.
for us. So like two separate things.
Right. So it's almost like this for me is almost like something, to your point, Kathy, like if we left plenty of these in a storefront, then like set like thing. Whereas a QR code is something you might find in the bathroom or like on the hall, posted somewhere or something. We talked about this at later class, but this would be a good example of that sort of thing where, like, for one, it's visually striking.
Or places where people congregate, like a bus station, or
Mhm.
some places where people
We didn't think of
hang
that.
out.
Done. I can do that.
Yeah.
I'll bust things. It's done.
Okay.
We'll do it.
Maybe like.
I'll call Alan.
There you go. Good, good. This is the. what
He may
this
watch these actually, so.
looks
Alan.
like. I wonder if this gets moved, if I can, there we go, that helps a little bit.
So this is the card, right? Look at
Yeah,
it.
we have this in, thanks to Kelsey, Commissioner Murray, we have a little wallet-sized card. And then we have something that is more of a poster that's an 8.5 by 11
Yeah.
with essentially the same thing. And now Joaquin is translated into Spanish, so it I might be able to get like, as I think about a bathroom stall, for example, maybe you'd want the English and the Spanish both on the same side, so when someone sees it, they can scan and do what they want.
So the first one goes to the website, and then the second one goes to the form itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when we were talking specifically about going out to the communities, ideally our interactions would end in someone getting this,
Mhm.
right? And it would end with, oh, here's my card essentially. And can I post this in your bathroom or something, or somewhere that's visibly accessible?
Quick update from the last conversation, those of us who were just in the 6 p.m. LGBTQIA+ intersectional rights task force, there were some great ideas Commissioner Marshall had about, we want to make this as user-friendly on phones as possible. We want to add some information to the complaint form that really helps the user increase their comfort. We kind of broke that out a little bit, so there might be some pre-steps to do prior to a big handout of the thing to the webpage. I don't know if you want to add anything, but just so you know, there was some good discussion.
Yeah, so kind of the, you know, thought, kind of what I was mentioning, I think in the previous meeting is creating some sort of, you know, educational piece about what the, you know, what the complaint form is, why that information is collected, who that information is shared with, and then what people can expect after they, you know, after they've submitted a complaint. And then we talked about making some edits to the web page that this leads to, because I should take you to a web page and there's a link they have to click and everything to then submit the form. And then just kind of adding that same information, I think, the website, so people are reading through it, they have that information available, and then including at the beginning of the form, an option for people to indicate anything, whether or not they, you know, want to submit the form anonymously, or if they would like to include their information and follow up, because it doesn't ask for follow-up information until towards the end of the form. And so the thought is kind of front loading that information. People can choose, hey, like, I'm doing this anonymously, no, I wish to be contacted. And then if they choose wish to be contacted, it takes them to their contact information. Then the rest of the questions, if they choose anonymous, then it just jumps right into kind of the complaint information.
And then to just pull in one other conversation, back in January 3rd, for those of you who weren't at that meeting, Commissioner Reinhold was talking about things like creating a dashboard of the types of complaints received and maybe dispensing or outcomes, so people can see the so what of it in a visible loop closing kind of way. I don't know if you want to add to that, or like, so there might be a couple of steps to add.
It's not me, that's, or is that you?
It doesn't matter who said it.
Why? Yeah, you both would build on that, I'm sorry.
I think it's
I
great.
think why couldn't start the dashboard conversation?
Oh, brilliant.
But at any rate,
Sorry.
it's all right. At any rate, I would like to at least pin that conversation for today, but for later, because I would like to spend some energy here talking about what exactly the things we'd like to see in that dashboard, should there be one.
Yeah,
Specifically, so that we can give someone things to work on.
yeah.
Because that's gonna be a lot of work, or at least in my head, a lot of work, because I don't know anything about technology, but I would imagine it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Mercifully, it's.
No, I'm not.
Someone else.
I'll connect with somebody else. What's that?
So delegate that.
Yes, I will. I don't have the ability to update our webpage. I did at the beginning, but we have a new page and I have not learned the new page, so now I depend on.
And a beautiful
colleagues.
page it is of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking points, there was something akin of talking points, I thought, when I was going through all this, was there not?
Mhm.
You provided, Gretchen?
Yeah, we had something written for liaisons who were imagining beginning a conversation, and then I need to double check myself. I don't think I wrote something yet for the two-person coming to the, you know, new business
Like a script.
script,
Yeah.
but I can put that together pretty easily.
Where did this come from? I know I printed it off, but I'm not sure what the intention of that was.
Yeah, this, we've had this for a little bit of time. I don't actually completely remember its origin. I remember writing it at some point when the group was wanting to do outreach and needing talking points, and so
Okay.
this was put together. This may work.
I'm wondering if that.
Yeah, I
is a
think
starting
how,
point.
and so what we're talking about, for those of you who might remember, there's a half sheet that offers, what this is a nice talking points about the Human Rights Commission. I imagine what you'd need is to shorten it and add in an ask or a call to action more quickly. Because I don't know how much time you're gonna get with somebody, and so you might not bury the lead and say something like, hey, we're here to tell you about the commission and see if we can leave some material with you for your customers.
Yeah.
You know, like load that, then jump into, oh, we are the blah, blah, blah. And do you think, like, for example, you have a public restroom where these could go, you might wanna weave in earlier some of those asks, just recognizing people might have limited time, they might be at work on duty, you're probably talking to employees. You know, would you be willing to leave with your manager? Is there someone we can follow up with? We probably have to edit this, I'm guessing, to include a little bit of that, but I know you were wanting some base, who is the Human Rights Commission?
Yeah.
That we could clarify with everyone to make sure we're on the same page about that.
Right, is there a way to make us look a little, when we're out in the field, to make us a little more official, like maybe like a lanyard that says
Yeah.
Human Rights Commission, City Salem
Thank you.
logo?
It's a great example of the kind of thing.
Cause if somebody walked in my business and there's two people and I'd be like, who are you?
Right,
Are you sure you're at the City Salem? I mean,
Yeah.
right,
And that's brings up a
Great.
good point, you know, like, how serious are people gonna take us, and we're just like, oh yeah, we work for the city of Salem, and
Yeah.
you know, if they think we're imposters, then we get tied up as they try to call the city council and talk to somebody, I mean, not the city council, but they talk to somebody at City Hall, and they're like, I have no idea who Robert Marshall is, and because of course they have no idea who Robert
Yeah.
Marshall is, and then,
yeah.
yeah, who are we, that is?
That's a great idea. We made at one point, you might remember, we made at one point little, you might remember, David, these little clip-on name tags, but we might be able to beef up the logo experience with it. They were clip-on name tags.
Like the ones that the
Actually,
city
still have.
councilors, like the ones that because now like some of the city councilors have. like,
Yeah.
those little magnetic clip on.
Yeah,
name tags.
this was a step down from that because they were printable and then you could like stick it in the plastic sleeve.
Oh.
But I know what you mean. I have.
You're talking about like the, like, yeah, you just print it off and
Yeah.
you stick it in the
I
sleeve.
have
Like
one of
you're
those.
going to a convention, hello, my name is.
Exactly.
Oh,
So
okay.
the magnet one, I have one of those. I know what you mean. I could check. I think there's more of a price tag to those, but they're not crazy expensive. But I think we'd want to just really affirm our folks
Yeah.
in, are you willing to do it?
Right.
And then I can explore if we can get those for us.
cause that should open the conversation right there. If two people from the City of Salem, look like from the City of Salem, walk in to talk to you, most people, that
Yeah,
person's probably gonna say, yeah, let me get my manager.
right. Yeah.
And
then you
name
can-
drop, like, we were appointed by the mayor. You know, like pretty early, I think you have it also sway it a little bit.
It's a great idea too. Yeah. It's the kind of thing we could build into this. Okay, so let's see. The magnet.
We don't wanna come in like we're.
I know,
Yeah,
we're
inspecting
inspecting
anything,
this with
Right.
Mr. Chris Boy, but.
Or act like you can pull their permit or something.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
So we do inspector business, so,
yeah.
for human rights violations, please,
But I think it'll help you get to the decision maker faster.
definitely.
It's a good point.
Great plan.
Or on this topic though too, I think also kind of just having, and I'm not saying for everyone in this particular group, but just those in general, kind of having kind of the what to wear when, you know, like when you're representing, you know, the city of Salem, you know, like on the commission, you're out in public, like
Yeah.
maybe not wearing, you know, like your pot leaf hat and, you know, like your ripped jeans.
Yeah.
You know, saying, you know, I was appointed by the mayor and I, you know, am a member of, you know, this commission or task force,
We
you know,
can
so just
those days.
you know, I wear my three weeks talking about. Yeah, or, you know, like maybe not wearing, you know, like your three-piece suit and everything, and then saying you're appointed, because then we'll think you're pulling the permit, but just like nice jeans and, you know, like a nice shirt and everything, and, you know, like remembering who you're representing, what you're representing, having these conversations.
Good. So far as next steps, I think what I'm hearing is the QR code after we're comfortable with the website. The talking points edited in from the experience of your you're cold calling on a business. So you wanna, you know, like we talked about, you know, who you are, not bury the lead. The magnet name cards and, some notes about how to present what to wear is what I'm hearing so far, is what would be helpful. Oh, please.
I was gonna ask, what's the timeline? How long do we think we're gonna be doing this? Are we doing this over a span of a couple months? Is it? The reason I'm asking that is maybe we should have a section as people are going out, what kind of questions? So that way we come back to the commission and get frequent asked questions, and then we get answers to those frequent asked questions, so that we can get more educated as we go, get better at it.
That's such a good idea. It's a good idea. And let me see if I'm understanding you right, because that could either be frequently asked questions that the commissioners are getting.
Correct.
Okay, from the people.
From people.
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah, I think that is a good idea, and I think that also speaks a little bit to the dashboard concept too, because part of what we've briefly touched on there is, you know, having a map, essentially, of places we've been, what are the things that we're carrying, you know, literally having a list, like a populated list of things where questions appear frequently asked or otherwise. What's the commission doing on this sort of thing? Try to make it organic and live and visual, right, for the whole city.
I would like to touch base on that. If we're talking, you know, specifically in terms of this, you know, like what places we've been to, and kind of the questions that we heard on that. And wanting to build that dashboard, my mind immediately goes to working with Dan and the GIS team, because we do something similar to this. My organization that I work with, our outreach teams, where we collect a survey, like we just fill out like a quick form after our engagements, and then that information is populated, can be transferred directly to a dashboard. And so we can create a form for these members. They, you know, choose, like, they set their location of where they're at, you know, kind of the point of contact for who they spoke with. And then kind of just like a quick, you know, like 2-sentence and everything summary for, you know, like what happened at the business. You click send, you can do it directly and everything from your phone, and that information can then be translated into a dashboard. And then we're also collecting kind of point of contact information for each of those places, so then we're not having to worry about whether it is, and it can be done directly from the smartphone. I could, since I'm gonna speak the GIS language, I think perhaps even I can sit down with Dan
Thank
and
you.
see
Great.
kind of what my thoughts are on
Okay.
that, to kind of link that dashboard and form.
And there's a-
And then we're able to then see anything, what places we've been to, so then when we go out, like the next month, or we go out the next quarter, we're not stopping by the same business, and then we can kind of see, you know, like where we've.
Yeah.
We can then target, we make sure we're targeting different areas.
Wouldn't that be helpful? And then if someone says, please don't ever come back, we've got that.
Yeah, we can
information,
mark that
for
on there,
example.
and they're like,
in a
yeah,
much
that doesn't
easier
want to be
way.
contacted again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I do want to just point out that Linda now has her hand raised.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I've had to be in and out a little bit, but, so maybe you've already covered this, but I would personally love it if any of the talking points include a list of accomplishments, because I feel like I'm a huge fan of yours, because not just of what you do and why you do it, but what you've actually been able to accomplish. And I think if the talking points include that, it can really make it seem like this isn't just another committee doing things because they're a committee. You're making a valuable difference. And, you know, obviously the housing as a protected class, you know, is near and dear to my heart, but in other things that I don't recall right now, but I have admired you for many other reasons as well. And I know you've brought other things to city council, and they've made decisions based on some of your recommendations. And even when they haven't accepted one of your recommendations, it's a testament to your integrity and the work that you do, that you've brought some of those topics to city council. You don't have control over whether they're going to go with your recommendation or not, but the fact that you bring certain things to light to enable more fairness and equity, I think even just bringing certain topics to city council's attention can count as a success. And if the talking points included those things, I think it could really make people understand not just who you are and what you do, but what you're the difference you're making in the community.
Well, thank you for that. We'll think of some things to put out on there. Yeah, thank you for that reminder, no.
I don't know if anyone's interested in playing with the existing talking points, if anyone's feeling like a writer, or if you'd like me to play with it and include it in the next February all commission packet so that we can get reactions to that. All right, so I guess there's two questions there. Does anyone want to tinker with it? And what do you think of the February timing?
I can take.
Thanks, perfect.
Of violent language, but. Yeah.
Thank you.
But it's not really language.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can send it to you in a Word
Okay,
document.
yeah. that's something.
Okay, thanks, Kate.
Thank you, Rick.
Very good.
Another recommendation that I would make also is, you mentioned that the city of Salem has like a new communications director.
Yeah.
Gretchen, and I know that each kind of communications director has kind of like their own style of how to communicate things.
Yeah.
And so I think also if we can get that person's input as well before we finalize, we can kind of take our crack at it, but also running it past to make sure that it fits that person's kind of like what they envision the communication style of the city moving forward is, and making sure that we're aligning, those communications.
That sounds smart. Her first day is 2 days before the February commission meeting. So I certainly don't think we'll be able
Yeah.
to achieve it in February, but I hear what you're saying about before we really finalize.
Yeah.
So we'll
And it's
play with
making sure
it.
it matches kind of what
Yeah.
their expectation is for the
Yeah.
city's communication.
I like it. And then once they get their feet under them a little bit, I should be able to do that. Perfect.
And I'm a communications director, so.
Oh, there, you're holding on us.
Yay.
So, yeah. But you are completely right, and I think that's a great idea too.
Plus, if I remember correctly, I think part of what we hope to accomplish at the general commission meeting next time is to really go through the website piece by piece and see what we like, what we don't like, what things, areas of improvement, things we have questions about. Is that right? Remember that correctly?
Well, I thought maybe that was gonna be a purpose of one of these meetings.
Oh, fine.
But if you're thinking it would be the main meeting, the benefit of that is all of the people. But I would need to
Well,
connect with Kelsey and Hamadi and confirm.
It could be here because we're dedicated to that kind of thing.
Right,
If folks wanted, if invitation was there, folks wanted to come and spend some
Right.
time doing that.
right,
If that is the case, then that should be an invitation we do for the next one,
yeah,
so that we can have everyone here.
yeah. We could flip it though. I would just need to check with the
No,
chair
no,
and
no,
vice chair.
whatever-
Either way.
whatever's easiest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we want, and anyone who goes out into the community, I think we just wanna make sure that they have had a chance to sit down and look at it. I think would be one of the benefits of having the larger
Yeah,
group do it, but
yeah, that's a good point.
we could also take a closer look here and then.
Well, I think there's a dual thing here. One is everyone being literate in what's on the website.
Mhm.
And then actually identifying things we'd like to see, some vision setting for the website. Is probably different conversations. They both can happen concurrently, as
Yeah.
we're not mutually exclusive by any means.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I think, okay, let's use that opportunity to segue into the dashboard conversation. What are some of the things that people would like to see on the dashboard? For the general question. And then specifically, we probably can't answer this question, Gretchen, as our cost person for the city isn't onboarded yet, but what, in your estimation, or maybe even your estimation as a professional, would be a reasonable timeline for, because people are gonna ask, if we go out, say we go out before the page is all updated and changed, which is probably likely. People are gonna ask, and we should have some kind of idea about when that would be. So say we finalized everything, which is generous, but let's say everything is kind of finalized by March. And we pitch it to this person who onboards in February. When do you think we'd be seeing a website that was up and running?
Oh, I don't mean to interject, but that's gonna depend on the capacity of the people who do the webpage.
Sure,
So I feel like I've gotta ask them that question.
sure.
Like
fair enough.
I have a colleague right now named Kathy who kindly edits pages as we see things that need to be fixed.
Yeah.
And so I think I could just get a question to her about what's your workload and where are you at? She'd need to know what we have in mind. So I think that the content would, like, she can make a change about phrasing or add an update very quickly, within a day, depending on what else is going on. So quick things are quick, but I didn't mean to interrupt you, and so you're welcome to add to that, but when I understand your question, I think I've gotta ask them
Sure.
as well.
What is your vision for a dashboard? Do you want something interactive? Because that's a longer term runway.
That's an open question. My answer would be yes, but I think that's something that we're here to discuss in part.
That would be harder, but like if it's something that's like say we gather data like in the forms that Robert was talking about, and then you have like an output, like what Kelsey was showing in the last commission, I don't know, or the task force, not everybody was here for that, but you have just data and it's like in a PDF format or something that you upload, and so it's like evergreen because you're consistently updating it, maybe once a month or something, then you can have like, you would have like an image, which would be like a, preview of it, maybe on the website, and they could like click on that and see the bigger version, which would be a PDF, but then it would always be updated, but it wouldn't be interactive. That would be faster because you could do that immediately, pretty much with the data. But if it's interactive, that's harder because you would get like 19% of all. So it really would depend on the complexity of the dashboard.
Yeah, thank you. I think, and again, I asked that only because I know literally nothing about anything. But I think my instinct would be to dream big what we want, what we would like our mile high aspirations, and then get reality checked really fast by the web people of the city, both in terms of capacity and capability. Because I think in other words that we should set our sights, cast our wide nets or whatever. English is my first language. I don't know why I'm trying to speak in idioms, but you know what I'm saying. So let's start there. What do folks want if you had to have a perfect dashboard? What would it look like, and what kind of information would be on there? We kind of already discussed some of those. It's just a scaffold conversation that we talked about where we've been. Literally, where have we been afoot in Salem after our original outreach? It'll be mostly downtown. What are the sorts of things that we're hearing in terms of frequently asked questions or comments or whatever? And I think we should also have like every bias crime update we get from Deb or from Ms. Aguilar, some information should be put on the website about that. We had X amount of bias crimes this month, or even where or how, or maybe not where. That's a conversation we can have. There might be some biases that come with that, but you know what I'm saying. Or having that data be visually represented and accessible. The sorts of bias crimes that we're hearing about, the sorts of number of people who come in or call or email Gretchen about what's going on and what are the nature of those requests, and having that be accessible to folks just so they can see exactly what we're doing on a month-to-month basis. Part of it is transparency. Another part of it is accountability. We go into the community and we say, here's what we do. It's like, okay, show me the numbers, show me how and where.
When you say interactive, would that mean I'm trying to think, would that mean something can go back and look like trends? Is that what that would
Like
mean?
play with it in real time, like interactive.
So you see at this time this year, how many bias crimes are versus 2 years ago?
That would be nice.
Gretchen, could I borrow your computer? I could pull up the dashboard that Community Action uses. Just to kind of give an idea about the dashboard.
Thank you.
And to Phil and Elle's point, I think it would be interesting, at least on the website somewhere, to have a what have we done section.
And that was a point I felt like was being made last time, like the so what? So we tell you about stuff, but then does anything actually happen, change?
Right.
So that would give us the chance. And we should keep that rolling with updates too as we get things done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even something more ephemeral, like what are our goals this year? Or
Yeah.
what are we working on this year? Even data we get from the community's belongings are gonna go out there in some way or another. You know what I mean? Just trying to show this is your city at work, basically. Like here's what we're doing. Is this it?
Yeah, so this isn't public, so this is all
Oh.
behind the scenes.
We have to share
screen. Can we share screen so Lynell and the
Yes.
YouTube audience can see? So if you go back to Zoom Thank you. And then share screen. And then
Bottom left.
find there you go. Thank you, Robert.
So this is something that Community Action set up for its outreach teams to kind of, so we use a form, Community Action Agency uses a form that we track engagements with individuals experiencing homelessness. And so these spots indicate where the survey was taken, where we did that at. So like these would populate as businesses when you fill out the form when you're at the business. But we have information on, total provided services, number of clients. And so like the answers to those questions pop up directly from, all this information is linked from the form that we fill out that I was talking about. And I think, and I don't know what platform we use for the initial survey, but there could be a way to potentially change the platform that we use for the regular human rights submission survey to, potentially work with the Citizens ArcGIS folks to then just change the, form provider, so to speak. So that information that's provided on the form for, complaints of discrimination then just gets linked to a dashboard like this. So then people could view it essentially, right? Like where did the discrimination happen in relation to the city of Salem? Like what was the type, the age, and that information, and then you just automatically linked. And I think that's something that Gretchen and I could have offline with Dan a little bit to kind of see what it would look like and what his team's capacity is to essentially build us a survey with the information that we want, and then how like their capacity to build a dashboard similar to this that's then public for everybody to just be able to view those questions. What's also nice about it too is that we have it so then there's filters as well. So we can filter by date. So if you just wanted to select a specific time frame for 1 month, what did it look like, or for 1 quarter? And then you could filter by type. So if you wanted to kind of filter by type of discrimination, that's available as well.
That's awesome.
So thank you. This is visually appealing, it's informative, it's accessible. This is exactly the sort of thing that I would like to see happen.
Way better than a PDF. I think that's perfect.
Now, the question ultimately becomes, to what extent is it possible, but this is essentially the vision I had.
Yeah, so we got, Community Action Agency got the idea of using ArcGIS for homeless outreach initiatives, originally from Gretchen after they cleared Market Street. She put us in touch with Dan Brown, who I believe is correct me if I'm wrong, I think the lead for, like the city of Salem, and then has also led some more regional type efforts in terms of GIS for other GIS entities in the Salem, Kaiser, Marion, Polk area. And so he's kind of the one that helped us get our start. And so Dan and his team are extremely knowledgeable about ArcGIS, and I think it's just a matter of Gretchen and I kind of working with him, kind of giving him like our vision, our concepts, and then just seeing what his turnaround time would be and what his team's capacity would be, what it would look like for them to kind of implement something. But it would be a good way if we did it like that, if we were able to collect information in survey 1, 2, 3, and link directly to a dashboard like we have, and that information thing is captured real time. And the minute the form is completed by the outreach team, that information I think is immediately put up on the dashboard. And so I've spent time when I was leading that outreach team for Community Action Agency. You can, as those are coming in, you can see where it's occurring.
And would that be one conversation for an upcoming meeting, is what is the backdrop? Because as you flagged, I think a moment ago, there are pros and cons to a map-based process.
Yeah, I think
for this.
a couple reactions is there are obviously things to keep in mind here. One, of course, is why I'm inclined to want to have the immediacy of it goes up. I think there's at least some argument to having some filter about what information is immediately put up online in terms of people's narrative and commentary and perspectives and stuff, because
Yeah, and that,
yeah.
and that's able to be filtered out. So we could
Yeah.
choose the information that makes the dashboards and all the information that we collect.
Sure.
And there's ways to determine anything like how much of it is accessible. Like there's various ways to determine kind of how much of that is accessible. The frequency which it is published. And I think it's also would be interesting too to see, and I would want to ask Dan that question. There might be a way too that we could just remove the map altogether and then just provide kind of like the meat and potatoes of it. So then people, especially when people are talking about like where they're experiencing discrimination, right? Like the city of Salem doesn't want to get into business of blacklisting businesses for other people, right? So like we wouldn't want somebody in anything to put, you know, like they experience discrimination at this restaurant, so to speak, and then it's up there.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, within that, you know, that business becomes the target. And so we wanna, you know, if we were talking about bringing in the bigger kind of discrimination complaint survey and everything and transparency in that and seeing, you know, if there's a way to remove the mapping aspect of it. And I think that's could be where we wanna consult Dan's guidance and expertise.
yeah, and I think there's that, and I think that there are two other considerations too, as it relates to actual locale. You also don't want to give the impression that some parts of Salem are worse off for the
Yeah.
of Salem, that people should avoid, or the, you know, that's not something, a narrative that I have any appetite to contribute to at all. And so intelligent conversations around that, and obviously ultimately the conversation around data visualization and how do we really communicate our values and the things we want to telegraph, that's one. And two is, as of all things, data privacy, you know, how are we managing people's data and the privacy of those narratives. I think the third thing is, we have on the flip side of it, more positive note, you know, we have quite a bit of data. I mean, the community belonging survey is what, 5 years old. I mean, we're not dealing with nothing here, and so we can go back some ways. Should anything like this actually, you know, get off the ground, and we have things to fill it with.
Yeah.
We're not like, we won't have a tool and then it's empty and dataless, where we have years of data we can input. I would think whether it's of it.
Yeah, I know when we were playing around with it too, there is a way to import information, I think, from previous Excel files. And so, you know, there could be a way, I imagine there is a way to import previous year's data into the dashboard. I think it'd be kind of intensive, probably, you know, take a lot of time. I definitely, my experience and everything, working with ArcGIS systems, it's definitely not something that's accomplished overnight. But something that we could, I think, slowly start tackling in chunks, then eventually get to, you know, kind of this broader vision, I think, where, you know, we do have, you know, a transparency portal on the Human Rights Commission page.
Is there a cost associated with this?
That's,
I always ask him that, because there may or may not be. That's a question that
Yeah.
you'll need to ask Dan, and then I'll need to see, is it doable or not?
Okay.
I
Great.
believe so. I think the cost and everything associated with anything of just for the licenses, and then in terms of creating dashboards and forms or anything, you can do as much as you want, I think, once you have the license agreements. And so I think,
True in general, but then would, like, for example, would Dan's team need to bill my team for
oh, yeah,
Dan's time?
yeah, you would have to then, you would have
Yeah.
to figure out on
Yeah.
the back end of things,
Yeah, yeah,
where you guys are gonna allocate budgets
exactly, yeah,
for,
yeah.
for the staffing.
Yeah, yeah. Can he absorb it, or would my team need to have a budget for that? What is the, yeah.
I would say there is an argument that this adds a lot of value
Yeah,
to the city's work. I mean, it really does. I mean, for independent of the HRC, just trying to map these sorts of things and communicate to the public is.
I think it's also very helpful too, I mean, when you look at, you know, a lot of the nonprofit organizations and everything in the city of Salem that deal, like, work with these, you know, subpopulations, that are typically reflected in the, you know, community belonging survey. If we're, you know, just talking about that survey in general and, you know, finding a way and everything to, you know, dashboard that and visualize that better. Having information, I think, for these nonprofit organizations to be able to go to pull, you know, data and statistics and everything is extremely helpful, not only when, you know, talking about their programs and the importance of what they're doing, but then also, you know, when they're, you know, applying for funding opportunities or, you know, trying to garner support in terms of, you know, volunteers or donations, you know, they can say, hey, you know, X amount of people and everything, you know, felt they were discriminated against based off of their housing status. And, you know, grant writing that works in housing and human services, they will put that in, you know, grant applications that they support the unhoused population, and these many people experienced it. It makes data collection a lot easier. Yeah, essentially.
As much as I hate to say it, we are at time, and I think the fruits of this conversation indicate that there's a lot here and there's a lot to discuss, and so it'll be a continuing conversation. I thank you all for your engagement on it. We'll skip the logistics of of the actual going out, which I think we're not there yet, anyway,
Yeah.
so that's, I feel comfortable with that. Awareness communication, very quickly, Gretchen, for January, February.
How about for January, we did a Black History Month proclamation recently that we awarded to the NAACP. I can put that up for our January communication, if that sounds okay. I'll have to tell you what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
okay, we'll do. February, we can pen and see what's emerging. I was wondering if a fair housing thing will emerge or
Yeah, I'm fine with
even
that.
the council work session, we can go from there.
That's fine.
Isn't there the Spanish?
Oh,
There is
Resource
the Spanish
fair.
Resource Fair.
Yeah, come
If
on,
y'all
let's
are
get it
comfortable, You wanna
out.
do that? Cause we're gonna be there.
We
Like
are
next
gonna be
week.
there.
Yeah.
Is it next week?
I think it might be,
Good.
or the week after. I can do that too.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's do both.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Kathy, for that reminder. Very quickly, member remarks or announcement, anybody? Member?
We don't know the date of when the gun violence forum is going to be rescheduled yet.
I don't.
Okay.
I haven't heard anybody.
Just
Not yet.
one point I heard from some community members from the Latinx community that they did not feel there was a lot of Latinx representation at the first one, because I think there was multiple. I have not gone there, did not hear, but.
It was canceled, the first one was
I
canceled.
thought there was like a
right?
I'm not aware of if they did a,
Oh, okay, maybe it was the data then.
well, the city did a work
The work session
session
maybe.
in partnership with Marion County. And I don't know if that's what they're speaking of. There's,
Okay.
I can't speak for Salem Reporter or what they've done. The city and Marion County did a joint work session
Okay.
to bring data to the Board of County Commissioners and the City Council.
Okay. So I don't know if there's a way to get the word out about it, maybe to different communities. I'm not sure if we could help with that or get that feedback or something. I'm not
Okay.
sure, but
Okay.
the feedback was like, hey, there. Whatever the original forum was, or maybe it was the data itself or something, but I think it was like an in-person forum. They said there wasn't representation there, but they were talking about the Latino community.
Copy.
And they were like, that's an uncomfortable position. So as an ally,
Yeah.
bringing that forth, that there should be people from that community in those forums. So when it's rescheduled, we should try to, market that or, do some PR for it.
I was gonna say, the only way I even knew about it was because of an email that you forwarded. I like to think I'm fairly tuned into what's going on in the community, and I had never heard of it until the email was
Yeah.
forwarded on, so I don't know how it was. But I don't subscribe to the Salem Reporter either, and maybe that was it.
Yeah. If you have any opportunity to clarify what they're speaking of, I'm taking a guess, and so it would be good to verify, but regardless, I can certainly give the feedback to the work session folks on the chance that are related to that.
Okay. And
I'll
also
certainly
like
do that.
different groups and community members that I know too, when it's rescheduled, I will, kind of promote it, I'm sure, to Joaquin and whoever else will promote it, but yeah, just to give people the opportunity to come.
Yeah,
If they want to. Just wanted to share the feedback, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Well, now, any guest comments, remarks?
Sorry. Not really. I'm just listening in on this one. I feel like I've been a little bit out of the loop because Safe Sleep has moved back into our original location and we're getting situated, and actual moving is a lot of moving boxes and unpacking things and finding what you have and forgot you had and what you still. So that's been a focus right now. So I feel like I haven't attended as many meetings as I usually would. So I'm just kind of catching back up to see where you guys left off and jump in as I can.
Well, you are more than forgiven. Thank you for all that you do and for your
Thank you
presence
all.
tonight and always.
Thank you, thank you. Have a
And with
wonderful.
that, have a good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good
Thank
Bye,
you.
Carolyn.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for all your help with the stuff. Rob, my God.